Hey guys, welcome back. Well, today I'm going to be taking a look at this really cool little brushless truggy by Xinlehong Toys. This is a Q903. This little guy is fantastic. Really nice little brushless buggy. It's nice to see them making some brushless ones. And probably most of all, this is extremely affordable. It's like $95 at Banggood. I'll include a link here down in the description because I can't rave enough about this. I love this little car. It's 1/16 scale, really well built, and like I said, it's brushless, runs on a 2S LiPo. And if you think it looks kind of familiar, well, it does look an awful lot like the slightly larger 1/12 scale 9116 that has the same kind of truggy style. Very similar to this Q903, except for that it is brushed. And I like this one better, even though this is a little bit smaller than a 9116. And one of the things they added to this one is this wheelie bar here on the back that just to help it keep from flipping over, because it does tend to really ride a wheelie pretty easy. And here I knocked my controller over trying to show you guys what it would do if you're giving it, a full throttle. It will really kick up and ride a wheelie. So it has a ton of power on the brushless motor. So let's take a peek underneath the body here. I already have the pins off. I didn't take off the little protective sheen all the way off the body here. I just noticed that during the drive review, because if you see here, the tires are all dirty. That's because I already have driven it for not only my test drive, but I did my drive review already. And this little guy is, like I said, a lot of fun. So anyway, underneath here you've got the brushless motor, 35 amp brushless ESC and receiver combo, which is kind of unique. I've never seen that in a brushless before. You see that a lot in a brushed. Usually the brushless ESCs also have a cooling fan. This one doesn't. I think because it doesn't quite need it on 2S. That's another reason why I'd probably hold off on trying to go into anything like 3S on this, because I just don't know how well it would handle 3S. But it does come with the 2S LiPo. The 2S LiPo is inside of here. You just take this little thing off, pop up this little piece here, and if I can get it undone, and then the LiPo comes out here. I won't even have to even take it out. It's a 1000 milliamp hour, 7.4 volts, so that's a 2S LiPo battery, and it has a Dean's plug. So Dean's plugs are great because you can use your hobby grade charger. You don't need any kind of funny or oddball connector. There's your balance plug, and then you can get this thing charged so much quicker than the included charger, which is right here. It's one of these USB chargers that charges up the balance plug. This is going to be extremely slow to charge, but it'll get the job done if that's all you've got. Here's a little wheel wrench to get the wheels off if you need to make any kind of repairs. There's also a few extra body clips in here. I've used one of them already because I did lose a body pin when I flipped it over on my street last night. I think the top speed on this thing is probably going to be around 20 miles per hour. I think they advertise on here it's in kilometers per hour. I'll show you the box. The box is actually quite sharp. It comes in here. It's got its information, a 2845 brushless motor. I'll show you here in a minute. It's got metal dog bones, full ball bearings, which is great. And you used to not see that stuff in toy grade stuff, which this is really not even toy grade in my opinion. This is quite nice for what you get. It says here, I don't know if it'll show up on my camera, but it's a 52 kilometers per hour. I don't know what that translates to in miles per hour, but I'm thinking in my test run it's probably in the 20 to maybe 25 mile per hour top speed. Here's your steering servo here. It's just spring friction shocks, and they are quite bouncy, just like the 9116. So the first upgrade I would recommend on this would be to go with some oil-filled shocks, which ought to be quite easy to find. That'll make a huge difference in the dampening. There are the metal dog bones, which they call them the shafts here, the CDC metal, CVD metal drive shafts. And it has a metal shaft, of course, front to rear, because this is four-wheel drive, as you can see. And it's got differentials, all the stuff you would expect in a little car like this. Now, it does come with an LED for the front bumper, LEDs, actually 2 of them. And they don't install this. I'm not sure why. It's quite easy, though. It's a little bit of a tight squeeze to get this this plug in here. Let's see if I can get it on my secondary camera. I don't know how well it's going to show up in either one of these, but there's a little spot in here, and it's probably not showing up too good in that one, but it's a little 2-pin plug to plug in here next to the receiver, and that powers LEDs. Unfortunately, I've got a bad LED on mine, and only one of them lights up. I would not expect that to be a very common thing, but for some reason on mine I've got a bad LED here. But even with one, it really shines brightly in the evenings or at night. You probably could make it out in my driver view, which was filmed during the middle of the day. I did add a drop of hot glue to each one of these because it just fits in here. It doesn't really snap in. They will fall right out. So if you need to add some hot glue or some sort of a glue compound to hold it in place, because it is going to fall out on you, and then you're easily going to break them. So definitely glue those in place if you do choose to install them. You don't have to even use them, but I think that they really do look cool. So I mean, there's not a whole lot to cover. All you get in this thing is inside the box is the buggy, of course, the controller, which I'll show you in a minute, and you get your accessory bag and an instruction manual. It's really basic. Cars usually are. The instruction manual is quite good, and it does give you kind of an expanded view how to all the parts and how to assemble it if you do need to do any kind of repairs on the buggy. But just tons of acceleration, and just a blast to drive this little guy. And parts, Xinlehong Toys is very common. They make a lot of cars for other companies. Parts for this are going to be readily available and very, very easy to find. I just love that this thing is not really expensive. The pistol grip controller it comes with has a foam grip, which I always like the foam grips. It's got your power button here. I like it's a push button power button. These little things light up blue, makes it kind of easy to see in the night. Get your servo reversing, your steering trim, your dual rates. You can set the steering how much you want it to go. I have it max. I want my max steering. And you get a high and a low rate for the throttle, which is actually really nice, because if you get this for a kid, let's say a 10-year-old boy, let's say, you might want to start this out on low rate. It's still pretty quick, but it's a little more tame. You're not going to flip it over as nearly as easily, accelerating, and the top speed is not as much. But you kick it up to high, boy, it really kicks it. It kicks in the tail when it goes off the start, and has a higher top speed. So I'd reserve that rate for someone who's a little bit more experienced. If you're just getting into this hobby, start out in the low rate, especially if you're buying this for a kid. Tell them to stick with the lowest rate. Takes 3 AA batteries. Again, you get everything in here. You don't have to buy anything for it. So I would recommend getting a hobby grade type charger, even if it's a knockoff one, so you can charge that 2S LiPo much faster, because it's going to take a long time. It's going to take probably several hours to charge this on a very low, the low amps that charge off the balance port on a USB charger. All right, well, that wraps up the table review. There's not a whole lot to go over on this little guy. So let's move on outside where we'll do the drive review. So be right back. Hey guys, welcome back. Well, today I'm going to be taking the Xinlehong Toys Q903 little brushless truggy out for its test drive. Really cool little buggy. Really like this. I'm so glad that they've gone with brushless. As far as I know, they've only used brushed up until recently. This thing hauls. It's really quick. As you can see here, it's got that wheelie bar here, because it will ride a wheelie. In fact, in the highest rate, it'll actually flip itself over if it has really good traction. So I got out here at my kind of favorite flying, and I think I'm going to do some more drive reviews back on this little rock road, and maybe see if it can go down through this ditch down here and see how it goes. And it's it's 1/16 scale, so really tall grass is going to probably get bogged down. We'll see how it does though. So let's go ahead and we're going to go ahead and turn it on. This has an ESC and receiver combo, which you see in the brushed. I've never seen it in the brushless before. Usually they have cooling fans. I think because this is only 2S and smaller, it can get by without a cooling fan. Go ahead and turn on the controller. And I'm going to put it, ooh, I bumped the throttle. Let's go ahead and put it down to the lowest rate there. And I'll show you guys the speed and lowest rate first, and then we'll go up to the highest rate. Now, I didn't take the protective film off the cover yet. I can see it here. So some of the road rash might come off here. A lot of it's still going to be through. I test drove it yesterday and flipped it upside down and when it was flipping over on me. So if you want to, you can probably leave that on when you get this, but it'll look a little shinier if you take that little sheen, that little plastic sheen off the top. So let's go ahead and we'll take it out now and drive it. Again, this is just the lowest rate. Let's do a little speed run here. That's the lowest rate, a little bouncy, as many of the Xinlehong toys are, because it's just friction shocks. They're just springs, there's no oil in those. You can definitely get some cheap oil filled shocks put on here. That's going to make a big difference. That's my first planned upgrade for this, is to get some, check eBay or something, or Banggood, which I got this truck from, see if they've got any shocks that will fit this. It is awfully bouncy. When I drive it towards me, you guys might be able to see I've only got one working LED. For some reason my LED is bad. There's two LEDs. I don't know why. I'm not overly concerned about it. That's not going to be something that's going to be common. I just happen to have one bad LED. When I went there and put, you have to plug the LED in next to into the receiver. It powers them, and then you need to, I hot glued mine, otherwise it'll just fall out in the bumper. For some reason mine has one bad LED. Not too upset about it, but it'd be nice if they both worked. But I could I've got LEDs and some other lighting kits I could splice it in and it'd be fine. Alright, before we drive it around here in the grass and the ditch, I want to go ahead and go to the highest rate now so you guys can see. So I'm going to flip it up to high. You got your steering trim in your dual rates. So I got the steering at this max radius. You got your servo reversing here too if you needed that for some reason. Whoa, look at that. The highest rate is really fast. As you expect on a brushless buggy like this, the acceleration is just so much better than a brush motor. Even if the top speed's not a whole lot more than a brushed don't usually have that kind of acceleration. Wow. I ease into the throttle. To ease into it there, you're not going to, you're as likely to flip it over. Let's see if I can hammer it here and see if it'll, yeah, it rode a wheelie there. I think the traction in front of my house was a little bit better, and it was able to flip over. But here it's spinning a little bit. Now it is four-wheel drive, so you don't have to worry about, it's not going to spin out as much as a two-wheel drive. Oh, it flipped over in the grass. Let's go over and get it. And this has a, like I said, a 2S LiPo in it, so he gets pretty good giddy up for a 2S. And I do use a my hobby grade charger to charge this. It has a Dean's connector, so you don't have to worry about using some funky charger because you don't have the kind of charger you need, or the plug I should say, in your charger. I love it they use the Dean's, because in the box it shows in instructions that it has one of those goofy black connectors, which would mean you'd have a really hard time charging it with a hobby grade. But this one actually has a Dean's, so you don't have to buy any special plug. I did get a charger for my, oh, I got it caught there. They do make an adapter you can buy that will charge off the balance port and trick your like IMAX charger to charge a 2S and 3S. I've seen one for the, I have a 3S one. I don't know if they make one for 2S. They probably do. So that'd be an option on some of these cars that don't have the Dean's, or Dean's are usually used on the cars. Red JST, you see those on some of the 2S. Whoa, spun out. There, drove a pretty good wheelie. I just tested it in my basement too. Whenever you have it like a carpet or something really where it has a ton of traction, well, it just flips itself over immediately. So let's try it here. Let's from a dead stop see if it will flip over. Whoa, as you can see, that's just a ton of, once it throttles it, man, it just goes. So this is full ball bearings. It says sealed bearings. I don't know if they're sealed bearings or not. They may be. You used to seal a lot sealed ball bearings in the gearboxes where you want to keep the grease and stuff out of them. I'd have to take a wheel off and see if they're really sealed in the wheels. It's nice if they are, because the sealed ball bearings won't gunk up and need cleaned like the regular ball bearings. You can really see that back end bobbling. Whoa, cool. Because it really has a bounce to it that's going, because it's just those spring friction shocks need some oil. Would really make a difference. And you can't put oil in those because there's no rubber seal. As far as I'm certain there's no rubber seal in these. As far as the run time, you know, cars are hard to get run times because it depends on how you drive it. If you're driving it really slow, well, it's going to last a lot longer. But I believe the advertised run time was somewhere in the 15-minute range, I think. Don't want to drive. There's a puddle of water there. That would be kind of nasty. It is. It does have some waterproof or water resistant rating. I thought it was like IPX4 or something like that. It's certainly not going to do good if you want to drive it underwater or submerge it. I would not attempt that. You're going to probably end up with a lot of ruined stuff, but it should be at least splash resistant. Let's take it over here. There's a lot of loose rock here. Let's drive it around here and see how it does. And this loose rock, it ought to throw it around. The four-wheel drive, again, it's not going to fishtail as much as a two-wheel rear-wheel drive vehicle. Whoa, flipped it over. Like I said, this has a ton of acceleration and power. I'm really impressed with this. This is definitely, I got a lot of rocks that got thrown into the flip over, but I'm really impressed with this little guy. It's really nice to have a brushless of this size, because it's convenient. You can pick it up and you can go. I don't have to grab a big box, or I mean, as much as I love my DHK Maximus at 1/8 scale, it is absolutely massive. It is not something that's easy to pick up and just go. This you can, and this is like 95 bucks, ready to run, everything you need, includes a basic USB charger, as you guys saw in the table review. But if you get into this hobby and you've got a hobby grade charger, even an IMAX clone and not a genuine Sky RC, you're good to go to charge this little 2S LiPo up. So easing the throttle, and it moves. You know, I'm not going to get an exact speed on this because I would have to put my phone on top of it. That would be awfully bulky on this little car, and that extra weight of a phone is going to certainly affect the top speed of this Truggy. So I'm not going to be able to get a speed test with what I have. You know, on my Maximus, it was easy because that thing's huge and can easily carry it on the rear of the bed of the pickup body. But this one is too small. But just from my experience, I think that this is probably, whoa, I'm thinking 20 to 25 mile per hour, probably closer to 20, somewhere in that range, which is perfectly fine. I mean, yeah, it's brushless, but boy, it's got a ton of power, really fast, handles well. Again, I think if you throw a set of oil-filled shocks on this car, I mean, it's already got the ball bearings. It's got metal dog bones. It's well built. It's not really cheap. Get some shocks on there to secure up that bouncy rear end. And I think it really would be nice. I'm going to certainly look for the oil-filled shocks. You could probably add some spacers or adjust the spring tension right now, just to give yourself a maybe a little bit less bouncy rear end. Yeah, I like this. I'm impressed with this. The Xinlehong Toys generally are really good bang for the buck vehicles, even the brushed ones. This, of course, if you say, well, this looks familiar, yeah, this looks just like the larger 1/12 scale 9116 brush truck, which I reviewed probably going almost 3 years ago, and I loved that one, and that was just brushed. So this one's fantastic at brushless. So it's got good power, as you can see. When look at it, just plowing through. Now it's going to get caught up here in that tall grass. It's not going to be able to make it through, you know, 2 and 3 foot tall grass. Yeah, I need something the size of my Maximus to be able to do that. But get some of the grass out of it. But it seems durable. I just love this brushless. We're seeing so much more brushless stuff coming down in the more affordable range now. This would be a great car for, you know, a 10-year-old boy. Perfect. You can drop it down the low rate, which I'll show you again here. Give it to him, say, you know, if he's new to it, practice on low. That's full speed. You know, he's most likely he can handle that. I know my 8-year-old daughter, who's really good with this remote control stuff, would have no problem on this rate. She loves it. Unfortunately, she's a little under the weather. I was going to have her come out here and do some test drive to show you guys how easy it is to drive this, even for a kid. We'll kick it up here. Let's see if I can flip it from low to high while it's going. I wonder if it'll let me do that. So there's high. Now, there I kicked it to higher rate. So let's try that again. Now start out in the low rate, kick it to high, and you can see it kicks up a little. It's kind of hard to see probably in my camera, and I might have been too close to me at the time to really see it in my camera. But it definitely is quicker in the high rate. It certainly has more acceleration. That's why it's able to sort of ride a wheelie. It's doing really well though, because I was flipping it over quite a bit in front of my house yesterday. I think it was just getting more traction on my street. So, you know, it just has a ton of power. I don't usually rave over something that much, you know. There's usually something to complain about. There's very little to complain about with this car. Brushless 2S, you can certainly buy plenty of replacement batteries in this size with the Dean's connector and you're ready to go. Full ball bearings, full independent suspension, 4-wheel drive. The LED, of course, I've got one that's out on mine. Really well built. I mean, my only possible complaint would really be just throw some better shocks on this if you plan on driving this a lot. You know, you could always, if you're buying it for a gift, you know, let the kid learn on these shocks and then go up to some cheap oil-filled ones once they get more into the hobby and are ready to start doing upgrades and stuff to it. So really, really nice. As far as going 3S, I wouldn't attempt it. I believe it's a 35 amp ESC. It probably could handle 3S, but there's no cooling fan on there and it's a receiver combo. It'd probably get too hot and may fry it. For me, it's plenty fine on 2S. There's no reason to risk 3S on this little brushless buggy. All right, guys, well, that wraps up the drive review and the whole review of the Xinlehong Toys Q903. There's several other versions of this truck. They all are basically the same thing with slightly different body styles. Like I said, it's $95. I mean, that is just dirt cheap for a completely brushless ready-to-run vehicle. It's under $100. When it's this good, and there's some duds out there, it's hard to pass this up if you're in the market for one of these. Check the link for the purchase link below in the video description. I've got a link to this truck. It had Banggood for, I believe it was $95. All right, guys, so that wraps up this review. Be sure to subscribe to the channel and click the bell so you know when I do upload a new video. And as always, guys, have a great day.
The power of the dark side.